Hi, it's Acaila here. Welcome to video number 2 in my How to Beat Heroic Maexxna. We're going to actually be jumping straight into the action due to a technical difficulty. I hadn't started recording at the beginning, so we're coming on into 7 mana, where I have 7/1 damage minions beating on me, and things are looking a little bit dire. I've managed to do a whole 3 to Maexxna. But popping out the summoning portal at this stage is now when it's time to turn the tide of the game a little bit. I've been holding on until now with just the one healer, which is why I'm potentially as low as I look. Defender of Argus was kind of a gamble card to throw into the deck here. I thought it would be handy as Maexxna's AI default seems to be go for the face. So throwing it in, I thought, well, it's an extra minion that's likely to get sent back to hand. And it's worth just avoiding a little bit of extra damage. Normally I would advise against any sort of minion that casts a buff in this encounter because it's just going to be returned to your hand. So pretty unlucky that the Sea Giants come out at this stage. Best thing that we can hope for is that we can nab it with a mind control tech. So we'll try and get rid of some of those 1/1 minions at this stage. And increase our odds slightly. With a bit of fingers crossed. We don't have like Elven Archer or anything handy at the moment, so we've just got to cross fingers, toes and everything, and oh, got it, awesome. It'll probably get webbed because that's just how things go, but we'll just flood the board. So Summoning Portal is kind of key for beating this on a Warlock. Summoning Portal and lots of minions that of course cost 3 in order to get a critical mass out onto the board. Oh! Sea Giant didn't get webbed. That's awesome. Okay, Spectral Knight. I actually think that's the hardest minion here. A 4/6 that can't be targeted by spells is pretty overpowered. You've got to have either a substantial body of minions, which you can't really get in this game, or, yeah, some heavy hitters, which keeping out doesn't work too well. We've got Sea Giant, which is great. I don't know why I'm going to hit her in the face like I did. To Shadow Flame. Alright. Sorry, the other confession is that technical difficulties also meant that none of the recordings happened in a live action way, so I'm re-watching the games from last night and voicing them over. Now, the inclusion of King Muklo was actually a bit of a joke that I wanted to try in the Druid deck and I forgot to until I was building this Warlock deck, so I threw him in, just on the concept of flooding Maexxna's hand. So when Maexxna's at that situation where she has 7 minions out, 7 1/1 minions out, to fill her hand so that she was burning cards, would have been a cool concept. Might not work too well now in our favour. Now this stage where she's just emptied her hand of all minions happens, yeah, think like the 3rd cycle on 10 mana, pretty much every game, where she just decides you can be on 5 health, you can be on 20 health, where she seems to just decide that that's it, she's done. And it's the final play, and that's actually when things get easier. So if you survive until that length of time, you're in the clear. We've got 2 healers that we can pop into play now. I tend to not, at this stage of the game, we're not completely out of the woods yet, I tend to not have both of them on the board at the same time when I've got lots of other minions out, and that's just a little bit of an insurance policy. You can't guarantee that they'll both be sent back, and you are a little bit screwed if they don't, so... So in addition to the Voodoo Doctors and the Earthen Ring Farseers, I've thrown a couple of Drain Lives in for the extra, and really removal wise we're relying quite heavily on Shadow Flame, which is good and bad. It's a good combination with like the Argent Commander because you can get a hit in beforehand before doing that sort of damage. Or, you know, manage to steal a Sea Giant kind of situation. I've included Novice Engineer here because when you're carrying sort of spells, you do get a little bit more card bled than a pure minion sort of deck. So unlike like the Warrior, which was more minion based than spells, warrior had too many cards, I would say, on any given occasion, the Warlock with the spells tends to be a little bit dry on cards. So Novice Engineer helps. There's no way you're going to be using your Warlock ability of life tap in this situation. Every point of health counts until you reach sort of the critical turning point. So by this stage, 10 mana stage, pretty confident that it's a win from here. She's top decking, so nothing too nasty is going to come out in the way of cards, and we've got pretty big removal now. The combination of Power Overwhelming and Shadow Flame is awesome. I just wish that Power Overwhelming was till the start of your next turn, kind of like Ysera's Nightmare. Then you'd just keep getting your minions back, so you could Nightmare them and send it back. I should actually try and see if you can get... I managed to get Maexxna out. If you've watched my Warrior video, you'll hear that the first time I managed to kill Maexxna on Heroic, it was using Maexxna as kind of a cheating 9 heal. So I think maybe you could get a Ysera out, but it's a lot of mana if she gets returned. It's not really worth it. Potentially, maybe Rogue with some Shadow Step love so that she's back to 7. The next go, so you'd play her. Hypothetical Ysera plays. Yeah, it's all over for our friend Maxi, especially with our raid leader. So, Knife Juggler with the Nerubian Egg out is a little bit of a dangerous thing. Double Knife Juggler with Nerubian Eggs on the board is very dangerous, as my Pally deck learnt. And getting Mind Control Tech back is beautiful. It doesn't matter that you put out a Sea Giant, we've got Lethal Maxi. Little Maxi. And just for the fun of it, we will use up our Power Overwhelming. We'll even Shadow Flame him. 8 damage to everyone. We'll draw a card, and then just hit her in the face with the Knife Juggler. And that is how you beat Heroic Maexxna as a Warlock. Well, at least part of it, the part that did record. Alright, let's talk about the deck. So, core cards, your Voodoo Doctor, and where can I find it? Oh, the Ring Farseer, in all of my decks for this series, so it's going to be pretty boring. Mukla, like I said during the broadcast, is kind of a joke to see and probably not that useful, and Defender of Argus is probably not that useful. So if you're looking at subbing things out, those are the two I'd probably get rid of. Siphon Soul was my big removal for Sea Giant, and I think it's still worth having in. It also has that heal attached. A couple of Knife Jugglers, Summoning Portal, and then pretty much all of the other minions that kind of cost 3, so that they really just cost 1. So if you have a look at my curve here, you can see that 13 of my cards cost 3 mana. So we've got a couple of the Summoning Portals in just to enable that, getting a mass bulk of minions out at the same time. An Argent Commander to sort of have a heavier hitter, and Power Overwhelming as well as Shadow Flame. So I've got 2 Shadow Flames in there and only 1 Power Overwhelming. That was for the eventuality of like the Sea Giant. And yeah, drain life, and that's pretty much it.